Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to the live stream, Kilauea episode 51. Record breaking. Not in terms of the lava fountain height. Right now it's actually diminished probably to about 450 feet or so. Though this lava coming down the side of the slope is really nice because it's fanning out here from the north vent and spilling over and going down. But record breaking in terms of there having been 51 episodes in just about a year and a half. Maybe it's more like a year and 7 months. It's right in that zone. Prior record was 48 lava fountain episodes from Kilauea from 1983 to 1986 in the span of about 3 years. So this has been more eruptions in half the time. Seems to be that something is happening here in Hawaii. And what's interesting about Hawaii is that it's in the middle of the Pacific Plate. There's actually extensive volcanism all around it. If you look at the seamounts and just the fact that the Pacific Plate has an unusual concentration of these deep abyss volcanoes. We talked about that in a recent live stream. So there's some larger factor that exists with the Pacific. It's very likely because you have this hotspot plume naturally convecting stuff upwards, which then some of it, of course, is going to spill out to the sides and along the bottom of the oceanic crust, then go back down and convect downwards. And of course, that's happening primarily in the subduction zones where it really starts to subduct down. But that magma flowing, that energy magma, the telluric currents, everything flowing along the bottom of the plate can generate probably a lot of little seamounts coming up as there may be a fracture network that then infills and you get this sort of volcanism. So when we're seeing 51 eruptive episodes from one of, if not the world's largest and most active hotspot in a record amount of time, it makes you think a little bit. Now, thankfully, these lava fountains, this is the same view, just different cameras, by the way, okay? So this is our south camera, I believe. No, that's our south camera. This is our west camera. So just looking at it from two different angles. And 51 eruptive episodes, they're filling in the crater. So the Halealema Uma'u crater, I hope I said that right. I don't have the text in front of me, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But it's filling in this crater that collapsed about 6-7 years ago now. And what will be interesting to see is what happens once that crater fully gets filled up. It could collapse again, or perhaps you start to get these lava fountains, if they are continuing at that point, to then actually flow out into other parts of Volcanoes National Park. Maybe we get them popping up elsewhere. This is a super dynamic situation. We've had 51 episodes where things have effectively been normal or almost like it's a Disneyland attraction. Now, there's been a few that have not been a Disneyland attraction, but there's been, most of them have been such that you could go up to the overlooks and watch the volcano erupt, which I've done, and it's really spectacular. So it's really amazing how these Hawaiian volcanoes, under certain circumstances, can act like this. But that doesn't mean that it's always going to act like that. The fire goddess, Pele, she's quite a unique character, very dynamic. So she may decide to just pop up lava fountains, eruptions, other places. It really remains to be seen. So quick update for you today. We've been live streaming this eruption. We'll live stream for a little bit more after I'm off the camera, but just wanted to give you a quick update. Let's look at our USGS latest earthquakes map. And let's give this a look, because this tells a bit of a story. I have all the earthquakes here set for magnitude 4 and greater for 2026, okay? And the best way to see this trend I'm going to point out is just click this, the oldest first. We see a 4.2 that struck there January, 4.1 that struck there February, a 4.4 in March, and then we see this magnitude 6 that occurred there near the end of May, May 23rd. That was a big earthquake. You notice it's 22.6 kilometers down. It's believed that's because the entire plate the entire island chain was shifting down due to the weight that's been built up. We can look at it here. We see that it was almost a perfect reverse thrust up though. So it's kind of interesting that you have this weight and pressure of the plate and of the island pushing down, but this earthquake actually was a pushing up motion. So a little bit of a contradiction versus what the USGS was saying. Because they're saying that it was due to the weight of the plate hitting this that it really became problematic and created that earthquake, which was felt all across the island chain. That's the other interesting thing to mention. Let me go back here. We'll look at our did you feel it responses, okay? Because this is pretty crazy. And that's why I think this is important, is we got responses all the way to Kauai. People were feeling this in Kauai, which is pretty wild, from a magnitude 6. Now it was on the west side, strong shaking. Captain Cook going down, amazing snorkeling in this area if you've ever been. Southern part of the Big Island felt it too. Only light shaking really felt on the eastern side, like Hilo. Equivalent, you know, a lot of people here felt the shaking just as lightly as people did on Oahu. Go figure. So very interesting how this quake was felt. But you'll notice then afterwards we started to get quite a sequence of magnitude 4s striking off the edge of the island. So here 4.6 June off the coast right there. 4.1 other side. Now you do get a lumping of activity here south of the Kilauea. So these aren't necessarily the most unusual, but we see that they happen pretty rapidly in time, right? We had this 4.6 there on the 3rd of June, then this 4.1 on the 7th of June, then a 4.7 other side, almost like a triangle pattern here, right? Look at that, triangle pattern on the 10th of June, so all in 1 week's time. Then a 4.6 here and a 4.5 way off to the side. Check that out, way off to the side in the oceanic plate itself. So that's interesting. Let's see what this one shows if we get a moment tensor for it. We don't. So we don't know what type of earthquake it was. But clearly there's some stuff happening. We even see up here this 4.1, but this is the February 22nd quake. But in general, there's been some unusual tectonic activity around the Big Island for this year, 2026. And if we look at our tilt measurements for the entire time frame, here they are. Turn myself off. We see 51 eruptive episodes now. 51 is right here at the end. So there's been times where there's been quite a big decharge of magma into these lava fountains going 1,500 feet up or more. But in general, they've all been kind of in this zone. What we're seeing now is about average for what we've been seeing. It was this period right here that was very active. What do you notice about this? Okay, here's something I'm just kind of seeing this for the first time right now, though it makes perfect sense to me. This is July 2025. This is October. So we have July, August, September, October. So right about here, actually I think we can see it anyways. We don't need to, yeah, we can see it right there. That should be right there, the Kamchatka megaquake. The 8.8 that hit Kamchatka in the Eastern Pacific, Russia, north of Japan. Look at how after that megaquake, things changed quite dramatically, right? Is it a surprise that after the biggest earthquake since 2011, that a volcanic system connected to Kamchatka via the Pacific Plate, that seismic energy wrapping around the globe multiple times, saw a change in its eruptive activity? I would say no. Other people could argue it, but in general, I would say no, because it's a very clear cause and effect. We had those seismic waves get picked up by the seismographs all around the world and by specifically these tilt meters, which record the inflation and deflation at Kilauea. So 51 episodes now. It makes you think, what's maybe happening in the deep earth? Are the changes occurring? Could we perhaps forecast some activity from this? What you will notice with this most recent episode here is that our tilt has had this wave pattern to it. So it's kind of broken the trend of these past ones where it's just inflated up and gone down, inflated, boom, lava fountains. This has kind of gone through this wave motion. Now, one other thing to point out while we're talking about Kilauea is that the volcano has been shown, statistically, it's like 2 times more likely to erupt on a full moon or a new moon. And guess what? Today's the 15th of July. Yesterday was the new moon. So we're still in that new moon phase. So boom, we have this eruption again synchronizing with the lunar cycle, which is interesting. So I wanted to point that out. Now let us look at our seismic activity for the globe, okay? So we can look at this. This is for 2026. Here we see the 7.8 that struck the Philippines. Here we see the 7.5, the 7.2 for Venezuela, and also the 7.2 for Japan. We see that since about mid-May, when we had that quake in Hawaii, since then we've had quite a bit of magnitude 6 activity, in addition to these magnitude 7s. Before that, we had a global seismic burst with these magnitude 7s. So these were topping out at 7.5 for Tonga. Here we see also a magnitude 7 quake. What is that? Yeah, 7.1 right there, I think that is. 7.1 or 7.2. If we go back before that, you'll see 2025. So here is the activity for 2025. Look how much seismicity we had, big earthquakes after the megaquake. And look at that global seismic burst that popped off for the megaquake, right? So tons of activity right around that. Clearly the Earth having a huge release of energy, and not just from one location, but from across the globe. If we go over, we see that we did have some activity before that, notably a seismic burst right there at the end of March with Myanmar, Burma, the 7.7. But in general, seismicity was normal for 2025 until that megaquake. And we are still now in this heightened regime of activity right now. So the most recent activity, if we go there, we look at our map here, 7 days, and we see that we just had here a 5.8 that struck Kermadec Trench, but we'll notice a ton of activity around it as well. This is the largest magnitude. As I've been forecasting, we finally got an earthquake in Papua New Guinea. So right here, actually right next to the other submarine volcano that's erupting, Titan Ridge. Boom, 6.4 popped off. That's quite significant. And then if we go here, we see a 6.4 South Sandwich Islands. That is in a location with a notable seamount volcanic field. Submarine volcanoes there. 6.3 Southeast Loyalty Islands. That's occurring in an area with submarine volcanism in that subduction trench. 6.2 Philippines, a continuation of that earthquake swarm from the 7.8, and then this 5.8 there, Fiji, and that is from the subduction there. And it doesn't seem that there's any seamount in particular volcano directly associated with that one. But that's been our recent activity, a bunch of low-grade magnitude 6 earthquakes, keeping overall seismicity elevated this year at this time period right now. Because we haven't had a magnitude 7 since June 24th, but we've had plenty of magnitude 6s. Now as it relates to solar activity, we're having some activity right now from the sun. Let's check this out. So let me get set up here for you. Okay, so here we'll see a big plasma eruption from the side, a filament launch. So there it goes, right there. That's pretty cool. And there's another one. So we got two actually. I didn't see this first one. But look at that. There's a big plasma filament launch. Here's the other one. And we just now are actually having a solar flare from a sunspot on the limb rotating into view. It's a long duration, high C-class flare. So give this a watch over there. And we'll zoom this forward a bit. But you'll notice that we start to get these swirling plasma tornadoes, basically. Just a long duration, high C-class flare. Like 9.0 plus C-class flare. So we are seeing some activity, but nothing super, super crazy Earth directed at this moment. If we go here, we will see our sunspots on the far side. This is the one to watch. Now this guy is also the one that was very active last rotation, but this is the one that has stayed big. It's pretty dense with this clustering. I think this is going to be the sunspot that's going to give us a show in 2 weeks' time. End of July, beginning of August, we have historic planetary geometry. If you look at the heliocentric planetary geometry, it's Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, Jupiter, Pluto, Earth. I mean, everyone's in an alignment. Everything's in alignment. End of July, beginning of August. I think we're due for some big space weather around then. This guy will be exactly in the strike zone during that critical alignment. So right now it's facing all those planets. Earth is like the one planet on the opposite side in addition to Mercury, because we just had Mercury Cazimi. But right now this is facing that basket of planets. It's going to flip around. I think it's going to blast us big time. That's my forecast. We'll see what happens, but that is my forecast. I'm getting a strong feeling about that. We'll find out. Here is our X-ray flux. This is that long duration C-class flare I was talking about, nearly M-class, but not quite. Still though, just like pumping out some plasma and some light. And if we go to our solar wind observations, we've had a few coronal mass ejection impacts, but nothing really too crazy. At least not in my mind. Nothing to necessarily need like a dedicated video on, in my opinion. So here we have that. This was our high-speed stream impact. You see that we've had a couple bumps up in the speed because of these coronal mass ejections, but we haven't had any geomagnetic storming from that. So there have been times where the solar wind has been a bit stronger than normal. In general, it's been turbulent. In general, the solar wind has been turbulent, but nothing super, super crazy has come in. I think, again, we're going to have to wait about 2 weeks for that to happen when those sunspots are Earth-facing. But we could start to get the ionosphere to get charged up in just about a week, because if these start flaring, once they're on the limb, once they're in view, they can start blasting us with that light radiation. Light travels in a straight line, unaffected by magnetic fields, hits us 8.3 minutes later. So that very well could start charging up the global electric circuit. Then we could get a big solar storm to come in, and well, we could be in for a show. And well, we could even have Kilauea perhaps popping off again around that time frame. So, you know, she takes like 2 to 3 weeks typically to do an eruption cycle. This time it was longer because of this step tooth pattern that she had right here, right? It lengthened the whole process, but sometimes they're pretty quick like this. So we could also be getting Kilauea to erupt with the full moon, I think with a possible solar storm impact, solar flare activity, and more. So yeah, things happening right now from quite a few places. The sun, the earth, and more. But that is my update for you. I will keep the Kilauea live stream going, episode 51. Each eruptive episode now is just adding to that record. That was cool. Did you see that? There's a big heavy chunk that fell back in. That was wicked. You'll see that every now and then. Like it somehow was able to cool pretty quickly and then like fell right back in. So I'll keep you up to date on all this and more. I've been here with Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much for watching. Please smash that thumbs up button, help the channel grow. Subscribe to stay up to date on everything that's happening with the Earth energetically. This is earthquakes, volcanoes, solar activity, space weather, planetary alignments, interstellar cosmic forces, and so much more. I release videos almost daily. Again, thank you all. I'm going to keep the live stream up for a bit longer, and I wish you all a great time.